Hello, and welcome to Sustainable Outlook, a podcast from global law firm K&L Gates, where we discuss the transactions, technologies, and trends in the sustainable economy. We hope you enjoy this discussion. Please reach out with suggested topics or guests, or questions about how we can work together to create a sustainable economy.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Crouse, partner and co-lead of K&L Gates' Global Power Practice. In this episode of Sustainable Outlook, I'm joined by Sandra Kwak, who is the founder of 10Power, a developer focused not only on building solar facilities in disadvantaged communities, but also creating social returns, empowering local communities, and creating a workforce for the renewable energy industry in those places. Sandra has a rich history in sustainability and also serves on the board of the Foundation for Climate Restoration. We are so thrilled to host her here on Sustainable Outlook. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today. To kick things off, could you please tell us a little bit about why you're so passionate about the work that 10Power is doing?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. So 10Power is my company. It's a sort of benefit corporation, and we are working on providing renewable energy in places that today lack equal access to electricity. Our mission is 100% renewables for 100% of humanity. And why I think this is important is kind of a triple bottom line lens. So number one, looking at climate change as the most important issue that our species has ever faced, and seeing that we're at this critical moment right now for the future of life on planet Earth, and feeling the imperative to do something about it. And simultaneously, I think that we can really improve human health and development, access to electricity, climate justice, and a lot of other social issues through energy equity. So 10Power is working at that intersection of climate justice as well as energy access to create the world that we actually want to live in the future and to leave to our descendants.
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe one of the projects that you've worked on recently?
Yeah, so we have been working in Haiti. And over the pandemic, we actually completed a solar-powered water desalination plant that is now providing clean drinking water to 35,000 people. It's on the island of La Gonave, where previously there was not equitable access to clean drinking water. A lot of people were using brackish water or had to import drinking water in plastic. And we worked on that project with Give Power, which is SolarCity and Tesla's nonprofit. There was a grant provided by the World Hope Foundation that supported the initial capital expenditure for the construction of the project. And the ongoing operational expenses are covered by a below market price that the community pays for the water, which helps to maintain a local staff that runs the plant and keeps the plant in good operating conditions. So it's a community empowerment lens as well.
Oh, thanks. I think that's a really interesting story, and it nicely points out some of the complications of pulling together the renewable energy, the environmental aspects, as well as some of the social benefits. Your goals here are wonderful and laudable, but they can create a lot of complexity. How do you approach the development process, and when do you know that you've achieved your goals?
Our goals are ongoing. There are still close to 1 billion people today in the world who don't have access to electricity. And so I see it as part of my life mission to help write the trajectory that we're on right now. Buckminster Fuller said, "Call me trim tab." And I was just talking to a gentleman the other night who knew Bucky, and he was saying, "Call me the railroad switcher," right? The little switcher that changes the direction of the train. And I feel like there was a point probably around the Industrial Revolution, maybe even earlier with colonialism, where humans kind of got off the track of evolution. And I think that it's really our job right now to start writing that pathway so that we reconverge with the evolutionary path, because we've all seen what happens to species that don't. And you're right, Elizabeth, in international development, there are a lot of different ways that projects can go wrong or not have the intended consequences. And so it's incredibly important to be listening to the communities that you're working alongside and helping to serve. So the perspective that 10Power has taken is a humble learner view. So being from outside of a community, when you arrive, the true experts on that community and the solutions there are the people who already live there. So taking a need finding approach, trying to learn as much as possible about what's already happening on the ground. We work very closely with local solar installers. We have a women's solar installer training program that's in partnership with Haiti Tech University, which is a leading college that has a solar installer training program. So in a lot of cases, it's not even the teach a man to fish, give a man fish parable, right? Because people already know how to philosophically fish, right? They're just missing the resources. They might not have the proper equipment or the resources to procure the proper equipment or build it. And so a lot of times it's just finding out what those missing pieces are and seeing where, as a person who has access to resources, you can help to bring in those missing elements to really help a market to move. In Haiti, one of those big missing pieces has been finance. So we have a lot of access to capital. We have an investor tax credit here in the United States. So providing supplementary capital through blended capital positions, combinations of philanthropy, more traditional equity, debt, development finance to be able to provide solar loans so that our customers can access solar and pay it back on a month-to-month basis. So really paying attention in partnerships are the two ways that we approach a new market.
Sandra, you're also on the board at the Foundation for Climate Restoration, which, for those of us in the audience who don't know about the foundation, is a really exciting and interesting organization that's really focused on restoring the climate worldwide as opposed to just sort of making incremental changes. Tell us a little bit about your work with the foundation and how that complements your work with 10Power.
The Foundation for Climate Restoration is doing a lot of work from the UN to national, state, and local levels to get restoration into common parlance as the third leg of climate action. So most policy to date has focused on mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation being harvesting CO2, reducing CO2 emissions, adaptation, building higher seawalls, getting people out of the way of man-made natural disasters. But restoration is incredibly important because it philosophically puts us back into the mindset that we are contributing actors in ecosystems. Humans are animals. And when you look at any other species of animals or plants, if you look at trees, even minerals like olivine, they're creating a positive impact in the ecosystem. They're creating conditions for other life to thrive in a symbiotic relationship with the environment. And we have gotten out of this mindset. We can have an active, positive impact on ecosystems that support and create conditions for life for other species and for ourselves in the long run. And so the idea behind climate restoration is that we can actively be helping to reduce the carbon cycle in ways that harvest carbon out of the atmosphere, put it into the ground for healthier food systems, healthier soil systems. We can be leveraging both natural technology as well as human-made technology to be putting carbon into things like sustainable concrete. We're promoting a lot of infrastructure can actually actively harvest CO2 out of the atmosphere and put it into buildings and roadways. And then also natural processes like planting trees, artificial upwelling, which helps create healthier ecosystems in the ocean. So pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, putting it down into the deep, creating healthy ecosystems in the ocean that generate more oxygen for us to breathe. So really looking at a global scale on how we can get to 300 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by the year 2050. The long-term survivable rate of parts per million in the atmosphere is 350, and currently we're close to 420. So we are really screwed from an evolutionary perspective at this point in time, unless we actively start pulling some of that pollution and those harmful greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere.
Those are all really interesting and big goals and big projects. But how is the foundation complementary to your work with 10Power?
At the foundation, we've been working on providing climate restoration solutions. So we're promoting a variety of different technologies that are actively helping our climate to regenerate itself, to restore itself. And we see ourselves as a holistic platform for different types of solutions. 10Power also works across a variety of different sectors. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals that we're working on right now are number 7, renewable energy access for all, number 13, climate action now, and also number 5, gender empowerment. So helping women and girls, creating social structures for people to thrive. And so I really see those two things as interstitial, because with the foundation, we're doing a lot of work on the social level on helping people mentally to adopt solutions, to understand the different solutions that are out there. And at 10Power, we're focused on helping to build green economies in places that have historically been marginalized, left behind, and are today without access to electricity. Also, when you look at the growth of electricity usage, non-OECD nations are projected to increase their electricity use by 150% by the year 2050. And so we're really looking at leaps and bounds in terms of energy consumption in places that today have less access to resources. So we're standing at a crossroads in terms of overall global emissions. If that electricity continues to come from fossil fuel sources like diesel generators, which a lot of our customers in Haiti were previously running on diesel generators, we're helping them to switch over and see that a trajectory using renewable energy is possible, especially as energy storage prices are coming down. We are shifting the course of where development is going as a whole. And within the Foundation for Climate Restoration, we're working a lot at the UN level, also at state, national, and local levels to help talk about policies that can shift the trajectory of where we are going at a government, civil society, and individual and business level in terms of not only our energy consumption, but our overall carbon footprint and how we can actively be making that carbon footprint negative.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And it's a nice segue too. I mean, you all have been making a difference in Haiti with 10Power's operations for several years now. Do you have plans for development elsewhere in the world?
We do. We're currently looking stateside at working with Native American tribes. And we're very excited to be putting together a pilot project right now with the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. So I'll be headed to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation actually on July 4th for a powwow. And we're incredibly excited about things. We're looking at creating a tribal utility where we can help support access to electricity and energy sovereignty with climate justice for a number of different tribes. We'll also be visiting the Standing Rock area and the Pine Ridge Reservation. So seeing how, in this moment of awakening around injustice that's happening, racial injustice, economic injustice, and climate injustice, environmental racism, how we can work with frontline communities to help create returns that are flowing back to those communities. So there's a lot of renewable energy generation potential. And just like any other industry, renewable energy could be extractive the way that fossil fuel industries have been for tribes. There's been mining on reservations. There's inordinate amounts of pollution. There's been depleted nuclear waste that's stored on reservations. And so we want to break that extractive paradigm and not have renewable energy be operating along those same lines. So there's a lot of opportunity right now to completely rethink how energy systems are structured, not only from a technology perspective, but also from a social justice perspective. So we're working on this initiative right now. We potentially have a 2-megawatt project. A portion of it will go to the utility and a portion of it will be used to support the tribe's energy usage. And we have some DOE financing for that. So we're looking for some external capital to come in alongside the DOE funding for the Northern Cheyenne project. So really exciting things in the works right now.
It's outstanding. It would be really great if tribes could switch from being extractive and create more of an opportunity for sort of a net export of power to provide some income to the tribe and also hopefully some really interesting skills and jobs.
Yeah, and it's definitely within, the indigenous consciousness, so the way that a lot of tribes have been operating for tens of thousands of years to exist in a respectful relationship with the environment, with the earth. And I think that other cultures have a lot to learn, and as we're trying to figure out a way forward and really seeing that this idea that we can just continue consuming fossil fuels and spewing carbon dioxide emissions out into the air is not tenable. We're in the middle of the 6th mass extinction right now, and it's the first extinction that is knowingly and consciously caused by a species, which is us. So we have a lot to learn from people and cultures who have been living in right relationship with the planet for so long, for 20,000 years, right? Our cultures and civilizations are so young, like Christianity, only 2,000 years old, the United States, about 200 years old. We have so much to learn from other cultures. And so I think taking this humble learner perspective and really paying attention to the wisdom that already exists is a powerful path forward.
Well, Sandra, thanks so much for joining us today and exploring these really interesting topics. And it's been great hearing about the work that 10Power is doing in Haiti, as well as the pilot project that you're working on with the Northern Cheyenne. And just to close this out, I'm curious to know what you think we'll all be talking about in regard to sustainability in 3 years, and why you think that's going to be the topic of choice.
I think regeneration is really the next step. So sustainability has been popularized over probably the last decade. And now the next iteration of that is thinking about what it actually looks like, not just to sustain at this current level where we are, which is really harmful to our surroundings, but actually how to participate as a regenerative force. And so I think that even right now, we're making this shift towards regeneration and towards climate justice being a really integral part when we think about sustainability, when we think about corporate social responsibility, benefit corporations, or what business looks like as a force for good. And I'm seeing regeneration pop up a lot more in our consciousness, in literature, and in conversations. And I hope that we can really make that transition to where we're, instead of just showcasing, specific solutions, where every single aspect of what we do, from our financial investments to our employment to our social justice organizations, is 100% regenerative. And I love what Van Jones said, back in the day about green business, sustainable business. He said, I hope in the future, we're not even calling it green business. We're just calling it business, because everybody will be coming from that perspective and that paradigm. And I hope we can get there in the next 3 years.
That's a really great way of putting it, and thinking about it too. I just want to maybe put a slightly finer point on what you mean by regenerative activities. Are we talking about planting forests? Are we talking about switching away from natural gas power production? What do you think those projects will look like?
So the definition of regenerative is replenishing resources that you're taking away to the point where it's either equal to the amount that you're taking away or greater than the amount that you're taking away. So in every single industry, whether it be mining, which has an incredibly negative impact on the earth, it's incredibly intensive. There are a lot of labor issues, and mining is required for batteries, which are a big component of energy transition. So what would regeneration look like from a mining perspective if we were actually restoring the environments where we were extracting precious minerals from the Earth's crust and operating in places that don't have labor standards? What would it look like to make those communities stronger and to create healthy habitat, in the wake of mining operations? So that's a really extreme example. If you look at our food systems, regenerative agriculture is very much at the tips of people's tongues right now. What does it look like, instead of having monocrops and GMOs, to actually be mimicking healthy food systems where there are cover crops, grasslands, where you're creating habitat for more species, where we're able to have healthy integrated pest management, where the ladybug larvae are eating the aphids, we're creating pollinator habitats. It's easy to imagine from a perspective of permaculture, observing what nature already does. And then when we think about our human systems, look at a gigantic multinational corporation. Think about Amazon, for instance. What would it look like to have a regenerative workforce where the employees who are packaging and distributing those goods actually have an opportunity to advance themselves, to train up in new workplaces, in new skills? What does it look like to have a regenerative relationship in a town that's a complete warehouse town? What does it look like to have closed loop supply chains where instead of generating so much cardboard that recycling facilities can't handle it, there are packaging take-back facilities or reusable packaging altogether. So regeneration is a concept that applies to every single industry, not just leading edge green industries, but it's really rethinking the entire way that we do business so that it's creating a positive cycle so that all of the externalities, instead of being negative externalities that society has to bear, are actually positive externalities that are enhancing our systems and that continue to support our community, our society, our ecosystem, and also the environment in which that entity, that business, or that organization can thrive.
That's perfect. Awesome. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining that and for explaining your views and your business and the foundation work. This is all tremendous work that you're doing to create a more hospitable place to help us get back to the point where we can interact with the earth collaboratively, shall we say, rather than exploitatively. The work that you're doing is tremendous. Where can listeners find out more about your business and the work that you're doing with the foundation?
Come find us online. 10Power is at www.10pwr.com. Find us on social media. And the Foundation for Climate Restoration is at f4cr.org. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainable Outlook. To listen to past episodes and receive notices for new episodes, subscribe by searching Hub Talks, that's HUB Talks, in your favorite podcast app. We hope you will tune in next time to learn more about the outlook of the burgeoning sustainable economy.